Hi, I'm Keith Cooper from Northlight Images, and in this short video I'm going to show some of the elements of what I think makes for a good print. Now, rather than just pick one of my favourite images or something like that, I've picked one of my commercial images because the constraints on how I approach making a print like this are very similar to what I would do if I was doing a landscape picture of somewhere I visited or just making a decorative print. However, it's easier to say what the constraints are with a picture like this than it is for if I just wander out into the countryside and think, that looks nice, I'll take a picture of it, which I do sometimes. However, here we have a print printed on Canon glossy paper using this, the Canon Pro 200. So there's no particular reason I'm using this printer other than it's here because I've been testing it recently. It gives good results. So we've got an A3 Plus print. It's printed borderless, and it's some houses on a nice-ish day, and they have a pond in front of them. Now, I'll come back in a moment as to why this particular picture. But if I'm going to make a print, first of all, I need a competent photograph. I need to understand my equipment. I need to know how to get the correct exposure. I need to know how to focus. I need a tripod to support the camera. Just if I'm going to make a big print, it helps with things like that. But you need to understand the basics of getting a good image to start with. So that's the technical side of things. Secondly, I need a nice day. This print was taken for the designers of this, which is a wastewater drainage system for a small housing estate. I have no great interest in ponds and new build houses, but the people I took this for have a large print of it up on the wall in their offices. It's what they do. So for them, it's a great print. Now, it took quite a few images, but this is one of the ones that they liked and wanted to use as a print because it shows how the pond drains water out, runoff water, which is important these days, particularly looking out the window since it's pouring rain today and we're going to be getting some floods in the UK. Anyway, this is taken on a nice day. Why a nice day? Because people prefer happy, brightly lit pictures. If I was making a choice of my own, I might decide to go when it was a nice stormy day and I might do black and white. Well, that's great. That might make a picture I quite like. Probably not of this subject, but commercial clients have a habit of not really wanting dark, moody, end-of-the-world style pictures, particularly architects. They don't necessarily like their work pictured with a background of skies that look like it could be the end of the world. So we want a nice, bright picture. Now, I've had to walk around the site. I've taken loads of other pictures as well for this particular job, but this is one of the ones that was printed, and I have to find a good angle. Now we're starting to get something a bit more creative now, because I have to decide about the balance of the print, the composition of the print, and I have to think, is it going to be printed like this, or is it going to be printed like that? What do I actually need to do? One of the big differences between being a professional photographer and an amateur photographer is that as an amateur, or even doing stuff for myself, I could just decide, don't like this, I'm not going to bother taking the picture. That to me is the biggest difference between amateurs and professionals. It's because the professional is paid to take a particular picture and doesn't usually get the option of saying, nah, I don't like this, I'm not going to bother taking it. As an amateur, you get to choose what to take your pictures of. I know many amateur photographers who I would rate as better fundamental photographers than many professionals. Being professional doesn't mean you're necessarily a good photographer. It means you run a photography business, but that's another matter altogether. Anyway, so I've got a picture, I've taken this one. I need to process it for print. That is subtly different than processing for screen. And just show in a moment the process that I actually used to print this particular picture. But you gain experience through printing and you get to know how an image will come out as a print. Things like soft proofing can certainly help, but in general, much of it comes from experience. So I need to process this one and then I'm going to print it. So just over to the computer. Now, whilst I've edited this shot to give a good tonal balance, good range from blacks to whites in the picture, this is looking at it on a screen. I'm going to print it, so what I want to do is allow for the fact that the print has a smaller dynamic range and change the overall contrast. Now I'm using the Nik Pro Contrast plug-in here, and I'll just show the effect of applying it. It's relatively small. I'll switch back again. And what it's doing is it's just equalizing the tone a bit. Now, an image on a screen, it doesn't make much difference, but when you do stuff like this on a print, it can just give the edge to the balance and give a feel that looks more like how we see a scene, or I should say how we remember seeing a scene, than necessarily a straight reproduction of it. There's a few other tricks I've probably done on this as well, but they don't really matter here. I'm just using this as an example of a technical image that I'm producing for print. I'm printing the image using Canon's professional print layout on the Pro 200 here. I've set the paper size to A3 plus. I'm doing borderless mainly because I can. If I was printing this for framing, I'd probably want to leave a bit of border because it just makes it easier to mat and frame. But I'm using a colour profile that I made for this paper. The paper is Canon's Pro Platinum glossy paper, and interestingly enough, the view here is without any soft proofing. If I add soft proofing, you'll see the image looks a bit flatter, and this will reduce the effect of that adjustment layer that I applied earlier. So the combination of how you edit for print depends both on knowing that it's going to be done for print and knowing the characteristics of the paper that you're printing on. Now, this is a fairly detailed sort of thing, but you pick this sort of thing up from experience in making prints. Once again, I'd say obviously this is a print that I'm certainly not going to put this on my own wall, but that doesn't matter because the print is not being made for me to look at on my own wall. It's a print that's being made for a particular purpose, and in this instance I'm just using it because it helps make the point as to what you need to think about for printing. But anyway, we'll just print this via the 200. So I've loaded a sheet of A3 plus 13" by 19" Canon Platinum glossy paper. Glossy papers do work well on the Pro 200 here, one of the reasons I picked it for this example, but this is not really dependent on the printer. I could be using any printer for this. This just happens to be one that I have here because I've been doing some testing for my review. As the paper being loaded, it will take a minute or two to print. There's no great length of time to print using the 200 here. Here comes the print, and unsurprisingly it looks pretty similar to what I've got on the screen. If you're going to print, a good understanding of colour management is vital. Not necessarily because it helps you get things right, but I find that helps you get things right first time more often. So colour management makes things easier for me. There's no illusion of perfection or getting something correct. It's about better results. But here comes the print, and the colours of the sky in particular and the reflection in the water look great. The print looks fine, and it has the range of tonality I was after, and I can probably say that the print will do its job. Here's the print again. So that's the process. That's all there is to it. But by taking a process look at this to go right from the start of taking the picture, why am I taking the picture? What am I going to do with it? All of these are things that influence my choices in making a print. The more I think about such things, the easier and more transparent they become, and it makes it easier to produce good looking prints. Now, I'm never going to put this one in an exhibition or anything like that, but The client liked it, the client paid for it, so that's a result. Anyway, there is a long article to go with this that covers many more aspects of what goes into making a print, from colour management, all kinds of different things. So do check out the article that's linked from this video, and I hope it's of some interest. So thank you very much.